Stop what you're doing right now. I don't care what you're in the middle of. Put it down. This is not content you found because you were scrolling. You were positioned here, at this exact moment, on this specific night, because what is about to be spoken cannot wait until morning. There are people who will find this video tomorrow and say, "I wish I had seen it sooner." You are not that person. You were placed here first. That is the mark of the chosen one. The chosen arrive before the storm because they were prepared to survive it. Tonight, a decree has been signed against your family. Not a metaphor, not a poetic expression, a spiritual document with your family's name on it. A verdict that, if you do not know it is there, begins executing tonight. Against your children, against your grandchildren, against the provision that was supposed to reach your hands and never did. You did not find this video by accident. You were positioned here. The money that flows through every hand around you, but never yours. It's never hit your hands. Everybody else's, but not yours. Even with faithful prayer, the numbers in your account barely cover what your Social Security doesn't reach. There was something signed against the provision before it could ever land. And I'll tell you something right now. What you're going to need to move after tonight is already waiting for you in the first comment below. I'm coming back to it. Someone was smiling at your face while sharpening a blade behind your back. You know that person. Maybe someone in your own church, someone who called you family. They prayed over you with their mouth, and they participated in what was planted against you. A decree doesn't come from strangers. It always enters through the doors of people you let close. It didn't stay with you. That's the cruelty of what was signed. It runs downward. Your children are carrying something they didn't choose. The harvest that was supposed to feed them and secure them, held at the gate. You have stood between your family and what was assigned to destroy them, alone, for years. I'm so done with this. I hear that. That exhaustion doesn't come from weakness. It comes from being the only one standing. The nights have been long. Your mind won't stop and your chest won't loosen, and sleep won't come because the threat feels real. It is real. And there have been those quiet, lonely moments where you talked to God and heard nothing back, where you wrote your pain into what felt like a ceiling and felt like nobody read it. The chosen one always passes through the silence before the revelation. Esther went through 3 days of silence, right before the decree against her people was reversed. If you believe what I just described is real, press the like button right now as your prophetic agreement. The chosen one saying, "I see what I'm up against and I'm not afraid." Pray with me. Father, give me clarity in the next 72 hours about every door left open against my family. Show me what was signed, and show me how to answer it. Amen. Now listen. The decree that begins tonight does not have to execute. A decree signed in the Spirit can be answered in the Spirit. But you cannot answer what you have not identified. You cannot govern what you do not understand. That is why I built what is waiting for you in the pinned comment below. The Solomon Code is a guide that starts where most prayers leave off. It teaches you to diagnose the specific breaches in your household that are letting what was signed continue to operate. The path is in the first comment right below this video. Go there when you're ready. But before you do, I need to show you why Esther is the exact pattern for your life right now, and why the silence you carried was never what it seemed. Esther received the revelation of a decree of total destruction before it began. The enemy had already signed it. And she was still. She did not run screaming into the throne room. She waited. 3 full days of silence. The enemy counted on the impulsive response, the panicked prayer born of terror. He did not count on a woman who would go quiet and wait for strategy. He thought her silence was fear. It was preparation. You were not forgotten in your silence. The belief running underneath all of this, underneath the exhaustion and the unanswered prayer, is that God forgot about you. That he sees other families and passes yours over. That belief is the decree's greatest ally. A person who thinks they were forgotten doesn't file a counter document in a heavenly court. They just endure. They accept what was assigned as their portion. That is what the enemy needs from you. That is exactly what you are not giving him tonight. The years that felt like God wasn't answering, those were Esther's 3 days. You were in the waiting room before the revelation. What looked like abandonment was architecture. God was not absent. He was building the moment you are standing in right now. The silence was not the punishment. It was the preparation. Here is what I want you to do tonight. The reverse tribunal technique, From the court language of Isaiah 54. 3 steps. Do this before you sleep. First, name the decree out loud, your actual voice in the actual air of your house. There is a decree signed against my family, against my children, against my grandchildren, against the provision and the peace of this house. Name it. The enemy operates in what is unnamed. Drag it into language and you drag it into a court where it has no standing. Second, present it to the heavenly court. Quote Isaiah 54:17 aloud, the King James. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord. You are not reciting a poem. You are filing a counter-document in a court that outranks every decree your enemy has ever signed. Third, seal it. Say these words. This decree is null. What was signed against my family is revoked tonight. The court of heaven has spoken, and I receive the verdict. That is a chosen one exercising the jurisdiction they were always meant to carry. If you want to go deeper than tonight's technique, the full path is still waiting in the first comment below. Now, here is the gap. What you just received is a key. But many of you have had keys before, moments of revelation that felt like turning points, declarations that rang true in your chest, and the house kept leaking. The provision still didn't arrive, the children still struggled, and you wondered why the key wasn't working. You don't need more desperate prayer. You need discernment to identify the breach, close the gate, and govern your house. Prayer without discernment is locking the front door while every window is open. The enemy doesn't need the front door. He walks through the windows you didn't know were open, left open by generational agreements, by the wrong voices you trusted, by exhaustion that made you stop watching certain doors. You are not weak. You are under-equipped. There is a profound difference between those two things. Esther's story did not end with the fast. It ended with her positioned in the palace to govern, the voice in the room where decisions were made. God did not rescue her so she could spend the rest of her life surviving. He rescued her so she could rule. Your era of warfare is not the final chapter. It is the doorway into the era of governing. But you have to identify the breach first. You have to name the gate. Tonight, because the decree begins tonight. What I prepared has 3 movements. The first walks you through diagnosing the specific breach, the open door that gave the decree its access point into your household. The second gives you the protocol from Psalm 4:8, for the minds when your mind will not stop and your chest will not loosen, what Solomon called the just man's rest, and what you have not truly had in longer than you can name. The third builds into your daily life the practice of discernment that governs your decisions so the wrong voices never find a door into your house again. Not because you have to fight harder, because you'll finally know which gate to close. You don't need seminary training. You don't need Hebrew. You don't need hours a day. You need one clear path, walked step by step, starting tonight. Over 3,400 people are already walking it. The decree begins tonight, and so does your answer to it. You are not behind. You were positioned here at the right hour. The path is in the first comment below. Take it. I've talked to people who are in the exact position you're in right now, faithful, praying, enduring, carrying their family alone, who said the same thing. I kept waiting for something to change on its own. Nothing did. Not because God wasn't present, but because they were using sincerity as a substitute for strategy. Sincerity is necessary. It is not sufficient. The decree doesn't respond to how genuine you are. It responds to whether you know the court language that revokes it. That is what changed for the people already walking this path. They learned the difference between a key and a governed house, and the tightness in their chest at night began to loosen because they finally knew which gate to close. The decree begins tonight, and you are the one who is positioned to answer it first. Now, before I let you go, drop your city and your state in the comments right now. Just your city and your state, nothing else. I want to see the map of the silent army God is assembling through this word. The chosen ones positioned here tonight, scattered across this country, in every time zone, every household, every situation that looks different on the outside and feels exactly the same on the inside. Who received this revelation at the same hour? I want to see you. Drop it below. And then I want you to decree these 4 words out loud, wherever you are, whatever room you're in right now. I know who I am. Say it again with the weight it deserves. I know who I am. That is the counter decree. That is the answer to every document the enemy has ever filed against your family. Not a confession of perfection, a declaration of identity. You are the chosen one who was positioned here tonight before the decree began. That identity cannot be revoked by what was signed against you, because what you are was determined before the enemy ever put pen to paper. If this word reached someone you love, someone exhausted, someone whose nights have gone too long, someone who has been protecting their family alone, someone whose provision keeps passing through everyone's hands but theirs, share this video with them tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. The decree begins tonight, and so does the answer. They need to know they were not forgotten. For those of you still watching, still sitting with the weight of everything described in this video, still carrying the quiet, unspoken fear that the guide I mentioned might help everyone but you, hear me. It is meant for you, especially you. The pinned comment is not going anywhere. You don't have to be ready this moment. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to arrive with your questions answered. You arrive with the weight you're carrying, and the path walks you through it one step at a time. The decree begins tonight, but you received the revelation before it could execute. That is not an accident. That is the mark of the chosen one, positioned to know what is coming so they can answer it before it lands. You were here. You heard. Now the next step is yours. The moment you decide is the moment it loses authority over your house. Nobody can make that decision for you. Nobody can take it from you. It lives entirely in your hands, and your hands were made for exactly this. May the wisdom from above be your foundation today. May your soul find rest. Until our next encounter,